Hi everybody, it's Dave from Tao Te Ching here. It's raining cats and dogs out there, so I thought I'd talk about water today. The power of softness and weakness, and the power of water is one of my favourite subjects. And I just wanted to talk about this poster that I wrote for myself one day, a couple of years ago, reading the Tao Te Ching, which is an ancient Chinese book of wisdom. It's written by a guy called Lao Tzu. And unbelievably, it's from the 6th century BC, so it's 2,600 years old. This is a bit of Kung Fu wisdom from the really ancient days, and it's just as applicable today as it was then. So just reading it out, nothing in the world is softer or weaker than water. But for attacking the hard and the strong, there is nothing like it. That the weak overcomes the strong and the soft overcomes the hard. This is something known by all, but practiced by few. Indeed, truth sounds like its opposite. Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu, chapter 78 or saying 78 from the 6th century BC. Now this is incredible wisdom. This is the wisdom of the Tao. And if you know, most of you guys will probably know something about the Tao. It's symbolized by that yin and yang symbol. It's got a black and a white symbol. I've got it here on my Tao Te Ching logo. And here I've done it red and black, but the red has a little bit of black in it and the black has a little bit of red in it. And it's a symbol of the fact that the ancient Chinese philosophers believed that everything in heaven and earth has opposites, and opposites are complementary and they work together in marvelous ways that we consciously find hard to understand at times. And this is a concept that I've known since the 70s when I was a Bruce Lee fan. I used to read all sorts of writings that Bruce had written and books about Kung Fu, but this was an idea that I couldn't quite grasp. So I'd just like to talk about my take on today. Nothing in the world is softer or weaker than water. Okay, softer or weaker than water. That's true. Water's soft, it moves, allows you to do whatever you want. Now, Bruce said, talking about this principle, be like water. Water can fill a vessel, can fill up, it conforms to whatever shape. It doesn't really resist things. And he says, water can flow, like that rain flowing down out there over my tank, or it can crash, like waves in the sea. And having been a surfer in my youth, I know all about water crashing. And water is an extremely powerful thing. As it says here, nothing is softer or weaker than water, but for attacking the hard and the strong, there is nothing like it. So everyone knows how water carves its way through rocks over, tens of thousands of years, millions of years. Water pushes everything before it. And of course, the sea washes away sandbanks and drops houses into the sea. And so these are physical, natural symbols of the sort of thing that we can experience in our life. Now, the question is, how does the weak overcome the strong, and how does the soft overcome the hard? He says here, this is something known by all. Well, I would say these days it's not something known by all, it's known by few. He next says, but practiced by few, and in many translations it says practiced by none. So even 2,600 years ago, this was a bit of a tough one for people to get their heads around and make their own. The last verse I love, indeed, truth sounds like its opposite. This is exactly what this is about. Now, there's people who do consider that soft internal Kung Fu is weak, that it hasn't got any power. So when we say internal Kung Fu uses this principle, water, of softness and weakness overcoming hardness and strongness, that sounds like a lie, doesn't it? Truth sounds like its opposite, which is a lie, or a fable, or, you know, not the truth. It's wrong. Basically, when you get the feeling for the power of softness, which I've been told Sigong Chu Shong Tin called the soft power, when you get a feeling for it, you realize that it's much more powerful than hardness, which is really about trying and using the arm, using the fist, using certain parts of your body to do things with strength. When you soften, and even when you become weak and stop trying, what happens is that you become unified. You become like a blob of water, essentially. All your joints disappear and you just move. Now, thinking about joints, there's nothing wrong with that. That can really help you work on your Wing Chun. But I think in the end, there is no joints. You just move. And water doesn't have joints. It just moves, expresses all of its weight wherever it hits. And anybody who's been hit by a wave and they're in the tube or paddling out and the big wave comes over and you're not quite in time to duck it or whatever, you get hit. You know all about it. It expresses itself at that point. And so the softness that overcomes the hardness, it's a yin and yang thing. So by being soft and not resisting, what happens is you draw the other person's force in. When you're weak, it means to not have an ego, to not be a tough guy, not be strong. This really goes against the grain. If you feel like you're a tough guy and you're strong, you don't want to let that go because that would be weakness. Here they're saying, you know, weakness is an attribute. It overcomes the strong. How can that be? Well, in a weird way, being strong is an ego-driven thing, and weakness is not really weakness. It's actually letting go of the ego, which is the conscious mind, saying, I can do it. I'll handle him, boss. Don't you worry. But that's weak compared to if you let go of the ego and become soft and let the real power come out, which is the power of the unconscious mind, the power of the Nim Dao, which is what we aim to achieve in Wing Chun, the power of the mind that is connected to everything. It's called the present heart mind. It's the power of nature. So essentially, it's a yin and yang thing where you become weak in that you let go of what you previously considered to be your strength and you allow the natural power to come out. And one thing that you'll all relate to is in Chi Sao. Most people, and I certainly was like this, you feel with Chi Sao, you've got to sort of just have a bit of forward pressure. You've got to be going at the guy. You want to fill up your arms and you want him to feel, as soon as he gets out of the way, that you will fly in, sort of like coil springs. Now that is effective, but after a long period of trial and error and talking to some people that I admire in Wing Chun, I decided to go the way of emptiness rather than fullness, the way of, I guess, softness and weakness rather than strength filling up. It's a subtle thing, but if you empty, if you give up trying, you draw them in. And what you do is you draw their power into your center. And then it's a curious feeling, but as you're drawing in, you feel yourself going out. It's sort of a two-way thing. It's not just one way. Somebody's putting a lot of pressure on me. If I fight him, then I end up, I'm trying to beat his weight and mass. If I draw it in, doesn't mean I have to collapse, but I just feel that I'm bringing him in I'm submitting in a way, then suddenly I become one, and then it doesn't feel like there's much out there. I can move it. That's, you know, once you get it, that's what happens. So softness becomes a form of power, and I'll leave you with this thought. In my own experience, when I started to really get this idea, it took quite a while, I started to actually feel that when I became soft and even weak, my mind started to see it as power. I felt it as, wow, ooh, that feels powerful. And that was a little crossover for me, just to start to trust that wow, that's actually powerful. And when you get that feeling, you just, like I said, feel unified. You feel it's no longer just your arm doing it, or your shoulder, or upper body. You feel like all of you just retreat, and then all of you splashes back. Like, a bit like surfers know how a wave can come in, there's nothing much to it, and it just sucks out. Next thing, the next one hits you with double the force. That's sort of what it's like. You sort of suck it in, goes back. But it sort of seems to feel like it's happening all at the same time. So that's it. That's look it up in the Tao Te Ching if you want to check it out. There's heaps of versions online, heaps of books in the libraries and good bookshops. Number 78. Nothing in the world is softer or weaker than water, but for attacking the hard and the strong, there is nothing like it. 2,600-year-old Kung Fu wisdom. Doesn't get any better than that. Again, just a quick little ad. I'm available if anyone is interested in getting private lessons or consultations with me. If you want to talk about your Kung Fu, talk about your Wing Chun, talk about the Chu Shong Tin lineage's take on Wing Chun, our ideas, how we generate force, how we think about the forms, how we think about Chi Sao, ways to improve yourself. Essentially, I've got 20 years experience. I've learned from some of the very best people, put a lot of effort into it and a lot of thought. I really care about you and your Kung Fu. If you'd like to talk to me, just drop me a line, drop me an email, leave a message, and I always have a free consultation. And if anyone wants to take private lessons from me, it's obviously, you know, I can't touch you, I can't do some of the things, but we can always, there's ways to set that up. If you've got a friend that can help you, or there could be a couple of people in the lesson if you want it that way. I'll just make that offer, and I'll leave it with you, and please subscribe and like my video if you like it. Thanks everyone. Bye.